Hey everybody, how we doing today? So welcome to Steve's Will It Run? Right? So basically we have a 2.5 horsepower Suzuki outboard motor. Picked this up used, was not running. The guy said it has a lot of maintenance issue and it's been sitting for a long time. I bought this in conjunction with a 6 horsepower Suzuki outboard. Might have seen on a prior video, I'm not sure which is going to come first, but I built an engine stand for that one, getting that one ready to be torn down. That one, the motor is actually frozen up, but I think it is a bad exhaust valve, but we'll be stripping that one down. But in the meantime, we've got this guy, and the plan is to see if we can get it to run, but more importantly, get it to run good. So that's the plan. So this is a 2017 model. I've actually did a little bit of work to it already. I took it up the head off, not the head, I took the cover off. I did a quick compression check using the old thumb method. Basically put your thumb, take the spark plug out, put your thumb over the hole, pull the pull start just slowly like that, and you should be able to feel the exhaust blowing out of the spark plug, compression that way. But also on these motors, you can keep pulling it and you'll actually feel the suction on the intake side. Based on my other motors that I've used, and I do this a lot, I could just tell by the actual pulling of the pull cord how much tension there is when the spark plug's in there to know if the compression's somewhat right, or when I just do the thumb test to know that it's right. So I was very happy that I felt good compression on intake and exhaust strokes. So I'm pretty sure that the motor itself is healthy and that it is actually just a bunch of maintenance issues. So once I did that, I got a new spark plug. The other one has been sitting in there a while, so I always put a new spark plug in, put it in there, turn the fuel on, and then just gave it a couple of pulls. Didn't fire up, got some starter fluid, threw that in there, and it got to fire up, and it chugged and coughed and sputtered, and then it started running a bit. But in the whole meantime, there was this yellow mustard liquid just pouring out of it. Now, I didn't know what it was. I've never seen fluid like that coming out of a motor, so I didn't know if it was oil or what. But then what it finally came out to is that there was a fuel leak. I think they put on a fuel filter, and it was sitting next to the actual power head, and it melted it, so it was just dripping that fuel out when I turned the on valve on. And took a look at the fuel cap, smelled in there, and it smells just straight like varnish. So I know that's a bad deal. So from there, shut it down and knew I just gonna go through the whole thing and just make sure it's right. Now, just taking a cursory glance at it, I could tell it's a saltwater motor. You can see a lot of the metal stuff is rusting, which is pretty much the same as my motor. So I could also tell it's been in salt water and sitting in salt water. You can actually see that yellow tint. That was from that fuel that had gone bad. Other thing in regards to that fuel, I don't know if you can kind of see, but there's actually a fuel filter down in there, and it's right against the motor, and I'm sure that's what melted. But not a problem, because I'm going to eliminate this whole fuel system and run from the outlet of the fuel tank to the inlet of the carburetor. It's like 2.5 inches away, but then with the smog stuff on here, you got this that goes all the way up to here. Then it goes from the vacuum lines that gets it pumping, and then it goes back down along there, back underneath, and then into the carburetor. So that's not good, but I'm going to just eliminate all that. I also noticed when I was trying to pull start it that the throw on this rope, I think it probably broke, and then he just ended up tying it a little closer, because the throw was probably 1/2 to 2/3 of the normal distance that you can actually pull on it. So I'll probably have to swap that out there. Like I'd already mentioned, this smells like straight varnish in there, so I need to flush that out. I can see a lot of little dirt pieces in there. Actually, you can kind of see by the tank that it's kind of yellowed there, but there's actually a filter inside here, so that'll have to be probably changed. Other things I know that I'm going to do right off the bat is I'm going to go through the carburetor. All these lines will be gone, so it's not a problem. So I'll go through and refresh the carburetor. I'm going to do the valves. And one of the things that, this one, it has a bolt that's been broken off, because I could see down in there that it's not, the hole doesn't go through, so that'll have to be pulled out. One of the first things that I'm going to do is to change this oil, or not even change it, to drain it. But I don't know if you can see in there, but there is supposed to be half oil and half air basically, and this is maxed out, so that's definitely not good. So I'm going to drain that oil, and then the second thing I'm going to do, which is going to be a big important fact, is to take the 4 bolts out that attach the power head to the mid unit. Take those 4 bolts out, and I should be able to just smack it and it should separate. And if it does, we're great. I'll take this, put it on my table, and I'll just break it down here and just remove the motor out of it and just go through everything. If not, then I know that the coupler between the crankshaft and the main shaft, there's a little spline coupler. I'll know that that is corrode welded together and it's not coming apart. And if that's the case, I'm just going to try to do all the maintenance just as is, leave it in the case here. And then just know down the road that I'm going to have to rip the guts out of this thing, even if I have to do some sort of anything with the lower end. If I need to change the water pump impeller, if I need to remove or do any of the actual engine work, like remove the heads or anything like that, I'm going to have to do that gut ripping out in order to change that coupler. So basically it's detach the main shaft from the gears in the bottom, put it on a winch, unbolt it, and then mount this down, attach the winch to the bottom, and just rip it. And there's a pin in the that spins the water pump that goes through the main shaft, and just drag that through the water pump housing, bust that all up, and then that'll free it. Then I could take the motor out of the case, and then I have to split the case in half, die grind that decoupler off, break it off, and then I can go ahead and clean it up and put a new one on. So I've got a video about that. But anyways, that's the stuff I'm going to do. So for now, I'm going to drain the oil, and then we're going to pop this off and see if I have to some extra work coming later. Now this will be a good introduction if you are working on these Suzukis, especially if you pick one up like mine that's not running and you're just going to go through the whole thing. However, in an upcoming video I'll be working on is a fully in-depth look at these motors in regards to if your Suzuki 2.5 is not starting, or it's running bad, or you're having some sort of problem. And then I'm going to go through pretty much all the major and even the minor and even some of the smaller stuff that you can take a look at to resolve those problems. I've done carburetor rebuilds, I've done lower end rebuilds, I've done water pump, I've done fixing that coupler inside there. I've done individuals on that, and then as well as fixing the starter cord. So I've done a lot of individual videos, but I'm going to do one just for if your motor isn't starting, these are the things to check. And it'll be broken down by fuel, air, and then your ignition or electronics. So I'll have it categorized that way. But anyways, this will be a quick rough breakdown of these and how I do it. So let's get started. All right, let's drain this oil. Right underneath the handle, there's a big opening with a big Phillips screw. And let's see if we can crack this loose. There it goes. Oil looks good. It just might be quite a bit overfilled. No water in it. Yeah, it's honey looking. So next we're going to check to see if that coupler is frozen or not. So we need to detach the power head from the mid unit here. There's actually 8 bolts along the bottom that run around the whole thing. 4 of them will be touching plastic, and then 4 of them will be touching metal. You just want to detach the 4 that are touching metal, not the plastic. The metal ones are the actual motor power head to the coupler. The ones to the plastic are just the motor to the case. So let's get those 4 off. All right, 4 bolts are out. So moment of truth, this should just separate right there. If I just give it a good whack. And that's not a good sign. Yep, welded. I'll whack it a few times, but we'll see. And it is done. It is welded. Bummer. But then I knew it. Crap. Well, I kind of knew it because I've had the issue 3 times already. And when I saw that this one has been sitting and then sitting in the salt water, because that's why you have all this growth on the prop in the lower unit, it wasn't running, but it was just sitting in salt water. And that issue with that coupler is why is if your outboard is under warranty, well, one thing is that I would do the 4 bolts and I'd pop that head off every single year. And then if it comes off okay, then make sure you put in some anti-seize on that shaft and inside that coupler, put it back, and you'll probably be okay the next year, and then do it again. So as long as you can pop it off, you're fine. If you take those 4 bolts off and you whack it and it doesn't come off and you're still under warranty, take your motor down to your authorized Suzuki dealership. Tell them you want them to replace the water pump impeller, and tell them that you want the old impeller back for your records. So they have to actually change it, and they're going to run into the problem that they can't separate this in order to get to your water pump. Okay, and then they're going to have to go through and do what I'm going to be doing, which is stripping all this out of there, separating the head, putting it all together, but it's going to be under warranty, and you're having a service tech do it. So definitely do this before your warranty expires. Don't be like me and go 3 years and 8 months or whatnot and have the problem where I needed to replace or pull the head off, and then finding out I can't separate it, and then it's out of warranty and I'm screwed. So definitely do that every year. Try it yourself. If it separates, grease it up, put it back together again, check it again the next year. But before your warranty expires, give it a test, and then if it doesn't work out, water pump impeller. All right, we moved the motor inside on one of my stands, air conditioning. So let's start going through the motor here. I also noticed that the anode is missing on the lower end, and that's supposed to help prevent corrosion, so that's never good. Knocked off most of the barnacles that I could get to, which is a very big telltale that it sat in the water and that it didn't run because it was on the prop as well, and they were pretty heavy. I need to make sure I go inside the water ports, because there was the ports were all covered by barnacles as well, but I think I got most of them, but I'll double check before I start running this thing. But let's take this baby apart and see if we can get it running good. All right, so I'm gonna start stripping this down. First, the starter comes off. It's 3 bolts. One of the bolts has been broken off, so just 2 bolts now, and I'll fix that as well. Then I'll take off the carburetor and the fuel lines, and then the fuel tank, and that'll strip us down just to the long block. Then I'm gonna do the valves, and then start reassembling things. Maybe give it a good cleanup, but good thing is it's all you need is a 10mm for all this stuff, and then 2, I think they're like a 6s. I'm not sure for the 2 carb bolts, but everything else is assembled with 10mm. Man, I'm so bummed that the head didn't separate. I knew it wasn't going to. There was very little chance that it was still good. Maybe if someone had did some maintenance on it prior to me within the year or so, that it could have been resolved, but I had little hope in that. That's there. Let's take the carb off. And I need to take the linkage off. Carb bracket just pops off. That's the choke linkage comes off. The side. One Phillips holder for the throttle cable. It's a little Phillips screw head there. Loosen that up. That comes off. Spark plug is already out. I could take the ignition off while we're here as well. And rusty carb bolts. I'll do this in real time because it's actually a fairly quick process. I've done it so many times. Highly recommend taking photos or videos before you do this if you're not familiar with it. Same thing like when you're stripping the carburetor. When you working with these fuel lines to understand where they run, because the one runs from underneath the vent up here, vent for the vacuum line, and it goes under the motor to get to the actual input for the carb. So all those routes can only go one way. Alright, this vent comes off, and then the fuel line, we can get to that weird fuel filter, and I think which was the thing that melted. And there's that filter there, but we'll leave that attached. And oh, that's that yellow fuel. It smells like varnish. You can kind of see the yellow tint to it. Gross. Alright, that's good. What else are we going to do now? I guess I can take the ignition and the fuel off at the same time, since we're working on the front of the motor. That's the end of the carb socket. This uses a nut on the bottom that falls out. There it is. We'll keep that together. And this. The reason why I'm going to eliminate this fuel system is I want to bypass that as being an issue. Okay, because you could have these lines are go bad because of the methanol. You can have, there's actually little jets. In one of these, there's an actual jet that reduces, I think maybe it's in the airline. It's physically in the actual rubber line. That could get plugged. The fuel can get plugged in anywhere. There could be a bend in the line. So if I eliminate that and just go from the tank straight to the carburetor, what are the chances you're going to have a problem there? Very little. So I'm going to do that. This line's got to come off, but I want to keep all these together. That bracket can stay. Let's keep those. That's going to go there. Just having them stick out is fine. That way you just know where they go. Alright, pry that off, and then there's a vacuum line. Oh god, that yellow pea water there. And that vacuum line is always hard. I need some pliers for that. I'll go ahead and take this ignition coil off. These have spacers, or is this the old style? The newer styles have a spacer underneath these that fall out because the No, maybe not. All right. This has the older ignition on it. Okay, that's the linkage. This will be our ignition. It's stuck on the magnet. Let go. Let go. Oh. Oh, there's one washer. Or one spacer. No, these got the spacers. Alright. So, don't want to lose the spacers. There. Get the other spacer back. God, this thing, magnet's in the way. There we go. That's the magnet that sets off your ignition and your spark when it passes by. Alright. There's the other spacer you don't want to lose. Okay, I think that is it. This they call it an igniter, but that's basically the ignition coil, or creates the spark when that magnet passes through here, hits that, sends a charge through the system, it magnifies the charge and shoots out a spark. And there's a way to test those, although it's not very effective. Alright, that's good. This fuel line, if I can get it out here, this is that guy's filter. You can see where, I think that's where it's, yeah, it's melted there. Get it out of here. There it goes. And these are usually tough to get off. Oh, got it off. All right. So this is the 3-star efficient smog fuel system. That's where it melted, and that's where it was leaking from. And it is a good idea to filter it, but there is actually a filter inside there. If you can get this on without it melting, I guess it's a good idea. The carburetors have very tiny ports, and they clog very easily. So that's why the importance having this second fuel filter, but not if it leaks. But that's going to go away. All right, so that is what we've got there to work with. Now what I'm going to do is to do the valves. It's a lot easier to get at the valve cover when this is out. That's why I was so wanting to separate it, but it's not necessary. As you see, I got everything off without it. You just have to use an open-end wrench to get to a couple of these, but some of these you can get with a small 1/4-inch ratchet. So let's see if we can do that now. All right, we've got the valve cover off, so now can get these to be able to adjust them. I can already tell those are too loose. Yeah, loosey goosey. Now I can make sure that they're both opening and closing, which they are, because I could also tell when I did the finger test, because I could feel the suction when I put my finger over the hole. One will be blowing out, that's exhaust there. Now I know that'll be on a compression stroke. Hear that pop there, so we're probably around top dead center there. But I can look inside the hole here with the flashlight and see where the piston is at. So we're good there, but let me go ahead and pull the fuel tank out, because we're gonna have to definitely have to clean that. And although it's a tight fit, just make sure you don't jam up your choke that runs underneath it. It will slide out because there's flexibility in the case. So you want to make sure that the valve is shut, because there's a slot for it. And then it's just a matter of wrangling it out of the case here. There we go. Oops. There it is. And we've got our case out. And then I can also, there's a little wire in there that the chain attaches to keep this cap from falling off. I could fix that. And there's a filter in here that we could take off now. Take a look at it. Ooh, that's not good. Look at that. There's your problem. See, that's all the big biomass of crap that gets stuck. Look at that. So we're gonna go through, blow some brake thinner or carb cleaner in that way with the port open, and then it'll shoot out there, and that'll somewhat clean our filter. And I'll order another one just to replace it with. Ooh, just like varnish. Stinky. Yeah, there's a bunch of particles inside there, so I'm gonna have to flush that out as well. I'll just use laundry liquid, not laundry, but dishwashing liquid, and inject water in there and flush it all out, get all those particles out. There we go. We are pretty much stripped down and good. I could probably I could take this off, this plate, 4 bolts, and then check the thermostat, but I'll see how the water's going. If it's pumping through, then I'm not going to worry about it. But I could check these valves real quick. There you can kind of see the color of that gas. That's the gas that spilled out. It's yellow. It's like dog pee or something. Dehydrated pee. But that's what poured out of there. There was probably half a tank that gushed out. And that's not good either. Alright, we're going to adjust the valves now. Now everything is based off of top dead center. So what you can do is take the spark plug out. That's what the spark plug the original one looks like. Not good. Alright, inside there you can actually see the piston when it moves up. Oh, it's actually on top dead center there. If I can do that, there you can kind of see it. Now it's going back down, up, down, up, down. So hopefully you can see that. So the way that you can tell top dead center, because it actually comes up once for intake and then down and then comes back up for exhaust. But you want top dead center. If you put your thumb over it, start turning this, oops, and then you want to feel it when it starts. See, that's sucking in, and you can see this is the intake because the carb side, that's going in. So even though it might be coming up to the top, that's not the one we want. That's sucking in, now it's pushing out. Now we're pushing out. So now we know we're on the stroke. It's pushing the exhaust out. And then if we hold the light, there's the piston. Okay, so we want it as close to the top as possible, right about there. So that is top dead center exactly, and that's where we want it. If you look at the top here, here's where the igniter would be. The magnets had just fired it, okay? And then if you look on the actual starter, there's a little hole in the plastic casing for the starter. And then your timing marks are on top here. You can see there's kind of an arrow, couple marks, and then there's 3 marks over here. There's the deeper 3 mark one on the second batch here. That's your timing mark. And it needs to be right in the center of that viewing window on your plastic cover. What I do is I get a little bit of white paint, put a mark there, and then when you're running the motor, you could put a timing light on it, and you'll see that white mark through that little viewport, and you know your timing is right. You can't change the timing at all. It's either on or it's off. You could change the timing by putting in the wrong teeth in the cam, but outside of that it's working or it's not. So that's how you tell, that's how you get it on top dead center. And now we can adjust these valves. Once you're on top dead center, the range is 0.13 to 0.17 millimeters. Anywhere in between there you're good. So what you're going to do is you're just going to take your feeler gauge and run it. See, that's a little loose, so you want a little bit of tension going in there. That's exhaust, and this is the intake. So the intake is good. You can see how there's just a little bit of tension I have to push in and a little tension coming out, but it could still go in there fairly easily. So that's just about perfect. This one is too loose. That's the exhaust valve, so we're gonna have to adjust that one. The way you adjust the valve, okay, you can see there's a nut there. Inside the nut is a little Allen head. All right, so the nut itself is basically a lock nut. So once you have your Allen adjusting the right depth there, then you tighten that nut and that locks it in place. So what we're going to want to do is break that loose. It's an 8 millimeter. Okay, once it's loose there, then we can get our Allen head. I don't know what size it is, and that goes inside the head there. Oops, actually I could tighten it, I think, because we need to tighten it. Then you get your filler gauge, the magnet, and you start checking it. So that's tighter but still loose. So I need to rig it up. It's hard to see. This is why getting this motor out of the case would have been so much easier on this. Okay, got it in there. I'm going to tighten it up, give it a check. That's better, but still not enough. Keep tightening it. Alright, that's about right there. So we got a little bit of tension, just like the intake one. Okay, so that's our spot there. Then we could take our 8 millimeter. We want to hold that Phillips in there and then tighten up, holding both of them because you don't want that Allen to turn, and then snugging it down. Do a little bit tighter. There we go. Test it one more time, and that's perfect. A little bit of tension there. Okay, and then we can take these out and our valves are adjusted. Very easy. That's something that's very easy. It looks a bit daunting, but it makes a very big change to how your motor runs, starts, everything. Is after a while you got to do these valves. Okay, and then we could turn it. That's exhaust valve going, intake going. So they're both functioning fine. They're not sticking. So you can tell when you have, if you spin this and you have no compression, this covers on so you can't see it. A lot of times what it is one of these valves will get stuck open. And if it's open, that means the compression can't build up and then your motor just free spins. But these are opening and closing just perfectly. They're adjusted just right. So we could put the cover back on and then we can go to our next step. All right, valve cover's back on. I plugged this vacuum outlet here that drives the fuel pump, but we're not going to be utilizing that, so I plugged it up there. Taped off the inlet to the carb there, plugged this vent line, and put the spark plug back in, and then we're going to give this a quick wash job. I don't know if that's sand, salt, or what happened there, but then get rid of all this gunk. Maybe hit it with some carb cleaner first, and then spray it down with some water and get it cleaned out before we start assembly, because we're good to go. All right, I used some Dawn in the gas tank and foamed it all out of there and blew it out, so I'm just gonna let it dry now and then I'll be ready to go. And I fixed the little link there, so that's done. While I'm letting this thing dry, I'm working on getting that broken bolt out. So that's corrosion welded to this. Put a vice grip, played with it a bit, tapped it with the hammer a bit, but this is on this little wing and this is just cast metal, so it'll break off very easily. So I think the only thing I could do is I'll keep trying to wiggle this, but then I think I'm gonna put a torch to it, heat it, try that. If that doesn't work, then I think I'll grind it down, drill it out, and then have to re-tap that hole. But I just can't put very much tension on this arm. All right, I tried torching it, and that bolt just ended up breaking it. So I'm gonna drill and tap it. My drill just ran out of battery, so I'm waiting for that to charge up. In the meantime, this carburetor is stinky and varnishy, so I'm gonna disassemble that one and tank it overnight. But in the meantime, I've got this one all ready to go. So this is a nice new clean one. So we'll be loading that back up. As soon as that's done, we could assemble it and get it going. All right, I drilled it out. Now I'm using a tap and die set. Just gonna run it through. Put a new set of threads in. If this was out, I could go from the bottom, because the bottom, the threads are still there. But I think I'm getting to them. There we go. Good as new. I do this so often, I make my own gaskets whenever possible. So this is the carb gaskets. I just buy a big roll of gasket material, draw a bunch of them so they're ready to go. I just cut it out and stick them on there. So let me do that real quick, and then we're going to go ahead and start assembling this motor. I think we're all prepped and ready to go. This shouldn't take very long. All right, I think we're ready to put this guy back together again. So let's get this thing in here. That's all tapped and fixed. This is another thing that's a lot easier to put in when the motor is out, because you can assemble the motor and then drop it into the plastic housing. But because I don't have that ability, got to kind of force this in. It's a hassle. Go. There we go. And there we go. Nice. Everything sits in there. Choke is out. All right. That part's good. Now let's get this ignition on there. Don't lose the spacers. Don't lose the spacers. All right. Then this side has the grounds and the unit and the spacers, which makes it a big pain. There we go. Okay, before we tighten this up, it's not right. Not right, not right. There, that's right. We have to get the gapping between the igniter and the wheel. Okay, so let me get my card. All right, so we have to set the gap between the igniter and the wheel here, especially where the magnetic pickup is. But to do that, you can use a feeler gauge because it's 0.05. But I use a piece of cardboard, just thin cardboard, not paper, not thick cardboard, just a product cardboard there. And then I insert it between the two connecting areas there. Then I could push it against it, not real hard, just so that it's flush. They're both going to be parallel with the flywheel there. And then I could tighten them up. And that will give me the, what is that? Maybe a little tight. There we go. Binding up. There we go. And that gives us our both equal distances there. And then you could run a feeler gauge against that to make sure. But I'm gonna take the spark plug out. And then we could twist it so you can see that it's not going to hit, and then it's just enough spacing there. So that's perfect. Don't need this old spark plug in there. And then this gets plugged in. And that's ready to go. Ignition's all done. Then we're going to go to the carburetor now. So I replaced all that fuel hose for that piece there. Much nicer. So this goes into the inlet for the fuel tank, and then the fuel tank just, and it's into the carburetor. That's it. Don't need all that down, up, round, vacuum lines. So let's see if we can get this in here. Want to make sure our choke is up on top. We could put our little vent line in there, get it started at least. And then, can't see, I don't have light on this side. There it goes, there it goes. Okay, so we need our wrench. Oh God, what the hell? That started. This side started. Okay, so they're both going, and we're good. Make sure our choke. Goes in there, and snaps in. Okay, the little vent line is attached there. All right, we could do our linkage, which is here. Find the hole. Okay, make sure it's all the way shut. Put a little tension. Tighten it down. Okay. Make sure we have full throttle. There. Yep, maxed out. Okay, then, so all our fuel line involvement is just plug this into our outlet on our fuel tank. I should have put some spit on there. A little bit of lubricant, so that way I can make sure I can get it on and off whenever I want to. Okay, it's on there. I'm gonna have one of these little push clamps that don't really do anything. Okay, that should go on a little bit more. There we go. All right, that is pretty much it. Okay, we've got to put our recoil starter. We're gonna have to find another bolt. Let's see, where did my spark plug go to? Oh, I'm going to put my spark plug. This is a good spark plug. And our ignition on. Sure everything's in there. That's on there. And that's going to go there. So I need a long one. But we don't need it right at the moment. Okay, our recoil starter. That, find the hole. And we put a small one. Alright, temporarily I scavenged a bolt off of my replacement motor. But at least this one will have all 3 bolts. There. Alright, we are done. So let's throw some oil, throw some gas, and let's see if we can fire it up. All right, got oil, got gas, added gear, neutral, choke on, fuel on. That doesn't feel right. This might not be sitting there, but that should still work. I need to reset that tank. Alright. Let's see if we can fire this guy up. vent on. Oops. Emergency shutoff is on. That's good. Oh, there we go. Oh, I need the adapter for the key hole is missing. That's okay. Nice. And I got the little pee hole there, so let me put that back in. Fill that water back up. At least it goes in gear, but I need to check the oil level, so I'll do that next. And then I need to fix this throttle stop. It kicks back, so vibration kicks it back and then it kills it. So you have this little lever that you can tighten down and then it holds it in place so you can get your idle right. But fires right up, works good with the choke. So when you start it, pull the choke, fires right up, close the choke, and then you're ready to go. Bam! Baby's good. That's $500 made me right there. Nice. All right, so this is missing the anode here. That's basically this. It helps prevent corrosion, since the corrosion will attack the anode and not the motor. So you just stick it in there, put that in there, and tighten it up, and then you'll see that slowly deteriorate, which is fine because that means that your motor metal is not getting eaten up, and that'll help prevent corrosion. And this is part of his the kit I got for free, so that's a bonus. I saw it in the parts bin. All right, so that's done. Now I'm going to drain this gear oil and then see if there's oil in there for one, and then put some new gear oil in there. So let's take a look here. I don't even know which one of these is the right hole. That was a shell. There we go. I might have to put this on the ground and be able to torque on it. All right, super tight, but make sure you have a P3 screwdriver. That'll fit these larger heads, and then you won't strip it. But they're on there tough. Let's see if there's any oil in here. Oh, good. That is a very good sight. Smells like gear oil. Nice. No white milkshake, so no water's been getting in there. It's all the bushings and bearings and seals are good. I'll let that drain and I'll put some fresh in there. I don't know, I'm probably doubtful he ever changed it. Then we're just going to inject it from the bottom until it comes out of this. This is the filler hole, this is the level. So you want the oil level to be all the way up here, but you inject it from the bottom so it fills up all the gaps. And then when it starts oozing out of here, then you put the screw back, and then that'll hold it in until you put the other screw in. Okay, I'm going to inject it with this. Put it in the hole. Pushing it in. Oh, so it starts squirting out there. Just like that. And start put this screw in. That'll seal that vacuum. And then we could put in this one. There we go. And that is how you change gear oil. Nice and easy. All right, just going to fix the throttle here. That's the kind of the throttle stop. You see there's a nut in there. When you turn this, it's supposed to butt up against the plastic piece here and then bind it up so this doesn't free spin. It's got a spring in it so it'll shut, but you don't always want that. You want it to kind of lock down and wherever you leave it sometimes when you're just cruising around, so you can be hands-free. So that nut right there is free spinning, so I need to tighten that up. Well, that piece ended up breaking. This is actually would be one unit there, and as you screw that in with those threads, it pushes that nut against the actual handle there, and that's what causes the tension. But this was actually broken or just like barely holding on. That's why it couldn't put any more friction on it. So what I'm going to do is I'll order another one when I do the master parts order for my that 6 horsepower. I'll order another one of these, but otherwise I think I can just get a bolt with that thread pattern and just use that as the jam bolt instead of having a little plastic thing there. So no biggie. All right, I think we are good to go. All I need to do is take it on a test drive. Only parts I need is just a replacement there, but I'll get a bolt in the meantime. And then I need the handle to make the shifting easier since it sticks up and gives you a little bit more leverage. But other than that, this baby's good to go. I'm gonna have to look online to see the best way to remove these barnacle scales. Soak the whole thing in vinegar maybe, or just scrub it down, or maybe after enough usage it'll clean itself off. But otherwise I'm gonna go and take this one out and the brand new motor and just do some breaking in and see how it goes. But otherwise I'm just gonna clean up my mess and take a look at that 6 horsepower now. Okay, we have the 2017 Suzuki 2.5. This is the DOA. It had a bunch of maintenance issues, so I went through everything. Should fire up and run pretty good, so we're gonna put on the Kayak and take it for a test drive and make sure everything is good. So let's see what happens here. First pull fired right up, so let's take her out and go for a spin. Nice. Ping like a racehorse, even better. Baby's just humming, running smooth. The only bad thing is the throttle stop. I have to wait to get that screw in, so it drops down and idle every time I let go of the handle, so I gotta hold it open. Well, we're just gonna putt around for a bit, make sure it's all smooth, get a quick look over, but otherwise it's humming. like a kitten. Nice. So yeah, this guy's running good. I did forget that I've got to unplug those water ports because of those barnacles got inside there. So I could feel it when I'm going into the current. It feels just like when I get weeds that cover that those water input ports. It kind of makes the motor shudder because there's probably some cavitation. So I got to dig in there with the screwdriver because they got actually inside. So I got to see if I can chip away at those, but still it runs fine, it goes. So I'm gonna do a couple of cold starts and then we'll take it for a longer ride. All right, let's check out the warm start. So when I first starting it, use a choke, fires first pull, but now that it's warmed up, I should be able to do it without any choke. Yep, oops, gotta get some gas. Yep, so no problem. I gotta turn the idle up on the carburetor, but look how low I can get this thing to idle. Smooth. All right, I think this baby is stamp of approval. I got to get the throttle stop. I need to up the idle on the carburetor. I need to, oops, let me turn the fuel off here. So I need to, man, that's, maybe oil that up. But my water inlets inside here, inside these fins, they've got the barnacles in them. You can kind of see them there, but they're actually inside the ports. So I got to go in there and with the ice pick or something and nail and kind of chop those out because that impedes the water flow. So when you get water, even just these grass gets on those, you can feel it in the motor start hesitating. So I can kind of feel that, especially when I'm going into the current. So I need to work on that, and then just knocking off all those barnacles off of here. There's a bunch underneath this cavitation plate here too. I didn't even touch those. But other than that, this baby is ready for some work. So I'll put a few fishing trips on it, and then we'll be good to go.